Eyes wide open. We're looking into these eerie encounters and the legends. Don't forget to subscribe and let's take a look.
I can see angels and demons and other supernatural beings. Let's talk about it. In November of 2024, I was texting my brother about Thanksgiving. He had made the decision not to come to Thanksgiving, and I, being his little sister, was annoying him about the fact that he had missed 2 Thanksgivings. Anyway, long story short, I was being a menace. I was telling him that he's rude, whatever, yada yada. And I was doing it on purpose to kind of like ruffle his feathers, as sisters do. And he was texting me back. We kind of were getting into it. And all of a sudden, I felt like I wasn't talking to my brother anymore. I felt like I was talking, and this is going to sound really crazy, I felt like I was talking to an ancient being. Stick with me. I'm not crazy. So anyway, I started to get a little bit freaked out by it, and I was kind of just reading the messages again, like trying to discern, honestly, what was happening, like where was the disconnect. So I'm looking at my phone, and all of a sudden I'm sitting in my dining room, and I'm staring at my phone, texting my brother, and all of a sudden I look up, and when I look up, I am inside of my brother's room. My brother lives states away from me, so that's impossible. I've never been to his house, but I could describe every single aspect of his bedroom, down to like the color of the laundry that was on the bed, and where the windows, and I mean, I could draw it. And all of a sudden I see him, my brother, and I'm standing in front of him in this vision or whatever is happening to me. Or astral projection, I don't know. I'm standing in front of him, and I see 2, that's my dog, don't be scared. I see 2 what I know to describe as demons, I guess. They're completely wrapped around my brother like snakes, but they were black, big, like this, like big, thick anaconda type, wrapped all the way around both sides of his body. They were black, and they had black, hard-looking scales, like a black snake mixed with a little bit of like a lizard. Speaking of lizard, when I looked up, once I saw them and I was just kind of like figuring out what I was looking at, their heads were right here next to my brother's ears, and they were whispering into his ears as he was texting me, and I knew he was texting me. And then in that moment I knew that he was texting me what they were feeding him, which is, I know this has never happened to me, okay? I'm just as shocked as you are. Anyway, once I saw them, they kind of noticed that I was there, and they went from talking to him, they looked straight at me and just made eye contact with me and started smiling like this. Like this evil smile. And then telepathically they told me, you're not talking to him, you're talking to us. And then they started laughing. And then I felt fear. I'd become completely over. I mean, I was horrified. It was just extremely real. I knew that my brother has been going through some things, and I knew in that moment that this was why. Anyway, so after that, it's like that vision stayed in my mind, and I was able to go back and look at it again. And the more that I would look at it, the more that I could figure out what I just knew what the demons were, like what types of spirits they were. I all of a sudden was aware that there were like many more demons, what they refer to as legion, in his room, like around him. And I could understand the different rankings of the demons, and some were just higher, like more like general level, and some were just very basic level demons. And I had never had this knowledge before. Okay. I'm one of those people who grew up Christian, going to church with my parents because they made me. I would read my Bible because that's what I was taught I was supposed to do. I prayed. I did not live a single day of my life for Jesus, that's for sure. So this came as it was a shocking experience for me, to be honest. And it definitely changed my entire life. So after that vision, my entire life changed. I remember a few weeks after that, I was rocking my daughter to sleep in her rocking chair one night, and I literally heard the voice of God he asked me pretty much, now that you've seen pretty much, he asked me if I wanted to see more of the supernatural realm. And very naively, not knowing what that would entail, I said yes. And I think if you say yes to God, you should probably understand the question before you say yes. Because from that moment forward, it was as if the veil completely was ripped. And I now can see demons operating in people. I can see angels operating, and I can see angels flying around. I can see angels with people. I can see people's spiritual gifts. And for the longest time, well, really for 6 months, I thought I was losing my mind. I didn't tell anybody. I was terrified that, like, I don't know. People were going to think I was crazy. But anyway, so anyway, long story short, I started freaking out. I started praying, like, what's happening? Please let me know that I'm not crazy. Please let me know that there are other people out there that are experiencing this. Like, who can I talk to about it? And so one of the first people that he led me to, God, Jesus, was from Phoenix. And he is wild. Whether you believe it or not, if you saw it, you'd believe it. And I believe it. So Phoenix taught me a lot about the spiritual realm, and kind of like what I was seeing. And then I actually was privileged to have a call with him a month or two ago. And anyway, changed my life. Anyway, the more that this was happening, the more I had to rely on Jesus to literally walk me through it, the Holy Spirit. And I'm changed forever. I was a Christian before, but I know Jesus now. Like, there's very much a difference. I don't follow religion anymore. I know Jesus. I serve Jesus. I love Jesus. Jesus Christ is Lord. And he changed my life. And I'll tell you kind of what happened after that. In every aspect of my life, he kind of supernaturally fixed / had to break first. But it's this whole big long story, and I'm really shy to talk about this kind of stuff. Pray for me.
This was the first time that I ever felt death, and it actually happened. So I'm going to take you all the way back to January of 2004. I was in middle school, and we were on Christmas break. So the break was coming to an end, and we were driving back from Orlando. I remember that on the car ride home, I had the worst anxiety. I had this overwhelming feeling of death, this overwhelming feeling of heaviness, and I couldn't pinpoint it. Now, this wasn't a feeling that I had ever felt before, and I really did not know how to handle it. So I told my parents, I'm like, listen, something is not right. I don't feel good. I feel like death is upon us. I'm like, I feel like we're going to crash. Something's going to happen. Like, I was freaking out. And, my dad's like, no, everything's fine. We're going to be good. Don't worry about it. Like, they were really trying to reassure me and calm me down, but there was no reassuring me. I felt that presence so strongly. So we end up getting home. Nothing bad happens. And I have to go to bed because the next day I have to go back to school. So I go to my room. I just, try to get it out of my mind. I try not to think about it, but that lingering feeling, it's still there. I think I ended up falling asleep for a bit, and I woke up around 2:30 in the morning, 2:30, 3 a.m. And I had the worst panic attack. I knew that something bad was happening. That spirit of death, I felt it, and I felt it so strong. I started crying. I started freaking out. I started thinking that maybe something happened to my family back in Colombia. Like, my mind was just going. And I ran into my parents' room and I woke my dad up and I'm like, listen, something isn't right. Like, something's happening. I feel it. There's no reason for me to feel this way. I was really trying to calm myself down, but it just kept getting worse. Finally, I ended up falling asleep, and the next morning I went to school, came back home, nothing had happened. Everything was good. And I kind of forgot about it. I thought, like, you know what, maybe this was all just in my head. So the following day, I go to school, and then when I'm coming back from school, I get dropped off at the bus stop, and as I'm walking home from the bus stop, I see a crime scene investigation van parked at the corner of my road. So basically the corner house was where the van was parked at, and then there was this other house, my house, and dun dun dun, the guy my other neighbor. So I see this van and I'm like, what is that? What's happening? What's going on? Of course, the cops start interviewing people. So they come to our houses and they ask us, like, if we heard anything from 2 nights ago. So literally, the night that I was freaking out, the night that I was feeling all of those things, was the night that this neighbor over here, now she was a little old lady, and basically her because he wanted money. He had her sign some checks and stole her vehicle, and obviously he wasn't a very smart, because he ended up leaving a cigarette butt on her property, right? And that's eventually how he got caught months later. So back to that day, the cops are interviewing everyone, and they let us know that she was... And when it happened, her daughter lived in New York, and she hadn't heard from her mom. Like, they talked all the time, and it was just really, really odd that she hadn't spoken to her. So she basically asked for a wellness check, and that's when they discovered the body. Now, to this day, I don't know exactly what I was feeling. I don't know if it was just a premonition. I don't know if maybe, how they say that when someone's about to pass, they start to wander and visit places and stuff like that. I don't know if she came to me for some reason. Maybe that's what I was feeling, her despair, knowing what was going to happen to her. Because literally, like, my bedroom was on the side that was closest to her house. So when that guy, he literally walked through our backyard, like by my room, going towards her house. Yeah, it was absolutely insane, and I think about it from time to time, and it was just crazy. Like, you really never know who you live next to, and you really never know what people are capable of.
The other night, I randomly remembered the scariest paranormal thing that has ever happened to me, and I'm gonna share that story because I like hearing other people's ghost stories. So whether you believe in ghosts or not, I don't really care. Prior to this incident, I already believed in ghosts because my childhood home, my sister and I strongly believe was haunted. So I had already experienced stuff, so I believed in ghosts prior to this incident happening. So this happened about 2.5 years ago, and it was when I was dating my ex-boyfriend. Some prior context that is necessary is that my boyfriend was dating one of his ex-girlfriends. He was telling me that his ex-girlfriend was like a twin, but you know how sometimes one twin will consume the other in the womb? So that happened to her, and then she always said that the twin she consumed in the womb was her spirit guide, or always looking over her in a protective way. And so my ex told me that his ex-girlfriend's twin, the twin that got consumed, was basically telling his ex-girlfriend that my ex had a lot of dark energy and really sinister energy around him, following him. And so then, flash forward to me dating my ex-boyfriend. He lived in a really old townhouse, and we had been dating for a while. We were dating for probably close to a year before the incident happened. And so basically one night we're watching a movie, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go use the bathroom. And so since it's a townhouse, there's one bathroom upstairs, one bathroom downstairs. And so obviously we always use the downstairs bathroom when we're in the living room watching TV because it's more convenient. The thing with the downstairs bathroom is the way that the door opens is here's the toilet, the door opens this way, so you have to open the door and skirt around it to get to the toilet and also the light switch. So most of the time we would just use the bathroom in the dark because it was easier that way. And then the way that the bathroom looked is like, here's the toilet, and then directly across from the toilet is the washer and dryer. And then next to the washer and dryer, there was like a little gap that went in. It's like a little mini hallway. And so he had like a bunch of like storage and shelves and the cat's litter box in there. So, okay, yeah. So one night I was watching a movie. He's like, I gotta go pee. I'm like, all right. So he goes to use the bathroom, obviously in the dark, because like we're just so used to doing that. And shortly after he goes, he comes, I hear like a blood curdling scream, and he comes running out to me, and he's like as white as paper, and he's freaking out, and he was like, something was in there and it tried to touch me. And I was confused because like in the year that I had been dating my ex-boyfriend, I had never seen him react that way to anything. So I was just like, okay, calm down, like, what do you mean? And he was like, after I like went pee and I was going to leave, I saw something standing in the hall, in like the little hallway next to the washer and dryer, and I started screaming, and as I went to ran past it, that's when I felt it like touch me. So I was like, okay. And so like he was shirtless, like he was watching the movie shirtless. So I was like, all right, well, turn around, let me see. And so he had a really long scratch from like his shoulder blade down to like his side. It was like 3 scratches like that all the way down. So I took a picture of it and I showed him it, and I was like, okay, this is on your back, and like obviously you did not have this when we were watching the movie, like I would have noticed that. So I had to be the rational one because he was freaking out. So I was like, all right, we're gonna go stay at your parents tonight, we're not gonna stay here because even I'm too scared to stay here, and we'll figure it out in the morning. So we go to his whatever. So we come back the next morning. Before we had left that night, we turned on every single light, including the bathroom light. Like we went in there with our flashlights and turned the bathroom light on and shut the door. So every single light in the townhouse was on. When we came back the next morning, every single light was still on except for the bathroom, and the door was open. And we were just kind of like, okay, I mean, the door, how did that open? We don't know. However, the light could have like burnt out because we left it on all night. So we like turn our phone flashlights back on, we go in there, the switch was turned off. We were like, okay. So we turn it back on, the lights on, we shut the door. We're like, all right, let's just shower. We shut the bathroom door because it was just like always really cold. So we shut the bathroom door. Obviously, when you shower with the door shut, it gets very foggy and steamy and like warm. So we're showering. After we're done, we step out of the shower. The bathroom is ice cold and there's no fog, which has never happened before. So we were like, wow, that's really different. So we leave the bathroom. We're getting ready for the day. We hear a sound and we see like the cats like bolt upstairs. So we look downstairs and look at the bathroom, and we see that the door is open and the light is turned back off. And once again, we are just like, wow, that is really crazy. So then we like went and bought some sage and some other stuff to like cleanse the house, whatever. And after that night, I refused to ever sleep there again or to ever be there alone. And pretty shortly after that, we ended up breaking up anyway. So since I was barely there anymore after that incident and we broke up pretty quickly, I don't know if other weird stuff happened or like what else went on, but it was like a very terrifying night. And I'm not even religious, but I have a gold cross necklace that my grandma gave me, and after that night I started wearing it for a while.
So this happened to me 2 years ago when I went on a birthday trip to Las Vegas. And basically I really wanted to see this place called the Mob Museum. I was literally fascinated. I was like, I have to see it. And I'm really into forensics, and the organized crime stuff sounded interesting, so I wanted to go. So I go to the Mob Museum. It is 3 floors. I start at the first floor, I look all around, I go to the second floor, I look all around, and before I get to the 3rd floor, I realize it is 10 minutes until closing, and my mom's like, hey, just meet me downstairs, you go ahead. So I continue up these stairs to the 3rd floor, and when I get up there, I'm the only one there. There's no one up there, which was fine with me. I'm actually thinking at the time, this is awesome. Like, no one's in my way. I can just make my little round and head out. So when I get up there, I look kind of to the left, and there's a room where there's like a purple, real groovy looking couch, real groovy looking living room setup. And I'm thinking, oh, that looks cool. So I walk in there. Immediately when I walk in there, I just don't feel right. I don't know how to explain it. I don't feel great. Like, I just feel off. It felt like I just suddenly was like, came over with like just this creeped out feeling for some reason. And I didn't know why, because I was just admiring this like real unique looking living room setup they had going on up there. That was until I look over to the right and I noticed that there is a whole wall with a display of very graphic crime scene photos. And that wasn't the problem, okay? Like, I've seen crime scene photos. I've taken classes in forensics and stuff. But these pictures, I've never seen pictures like that displayed like that on a wall, framed with plaques underneath. I was just kind of like, I don't know. I started thinking that was why I felt off initially when I walked in the room. I was like, I don't know. I felt like the way that those people were being displayed was just like not respectful to the deceased. So my intuition was telling me, don't participate in this madness. Like, literally, let's just go. Let's just leave. So despite what my intuition was probably telling me, I'm literally thinking, I don't know. I kept gaslighting myself. I was like, maybe it's because the pictures, and I basically swallow the lump in my throat, and I'm like, no, I'm going into forensics. I have to be able to handle this. So I go up to the wall to look at all these pictures and the like stories of these people. I only looked at a couple that were on the very right side. I read like a couple of them. And then one of the other pictures from like over here somewhere caught my eye because it looked so old. It was like so saturated and so black and white that I was like, this looks like maybe the oldest picture on this wall. So I look at that picture. It's a real graphic crime scene of a man. I cannot say anything else about it on this app. So I go up to this picture, I'm looking at it, and at some point I go to read the plaque. So I move my eyes down from the photo, and as soon as I'm not even joking, as soon as I start reading this guy's name, dude, bro, as I'm reading his name, feel an energy rise behind me. Like, it felt like a tall person was like standing behind me or something. And I don't know how to explain why I felt like this specifically, but it felt like something was like hovering over me. Like, I don't know how to explain. I don't know how to explain. I mean, it was just horrifying. It felt like something was like looking down at me, and I immediately feel like frozen. Like, the hairs on the back of my neck are standing up. I have chills up and down my spine. I am not good. And I start booking it out of that room, and I'm surprised I didn't literally full sprint jump down those freaking stairs, but something kept telling me like, don't run or I'm gonna give off like more fear, more energy of fear. I was fully doused in fear. It probably would have made no difference, but I get down to the first floor. So I finally get down on the first floor, and I have to go down this entire corridor, like this entire hallway. And it's kind of a short hallway, and then you have to turn right to get to the exit and entrance of the museum. But when I tell you this felt like the longest hallway in the world, I'm telling you it felt like the longest hallway in the world. So I start speed walking down the hallway, and suddenly this energy that felt like was following me felt like it was literally standing in mine. It felt like something was standing in my energy. Like, I came over with somehow even more fear than I was already feeling, and start full on sprinting, about nearly falling over, like flying down these hallways. I'm literally just like flying towards the exit. And I get up to my mom, and she's like, oh my God, are you okay? I was literally like, thank God that's over. And then I get home, and some weird happened at my house. Some weird stuff happened at my house. And mind you, I've had paranormal experiences before. I have had things whisper in my ear. I have had weird experiences, but nothing made me scared like this. Nothing in my life. And I've been through cancer and like a lot of other things. And this truly is the scariest thing that's ever happened to me.
Of where the hell did I move? Haunted historical house in Appalachia built in the 1800s that used to be a funeral home and allegedly a Civil War hospital addition. Oh yeah, and the only neighbors were not one but two huge cemeteries, and the backyard was surrounded by the woods. I lived there for nearly 4 years. I do not live there anymore. We all experienced a lot of creepy things while living there. They take multiple parts, and I have told these stories on here before, not all of them, but some of them, but I got scared and I took them all down. Or when I was talking about it online, it was like it got mad or something. I don't know, but things escalated and got so much worse, so I just took the videos down. Like, for y'all to fully understand the creepiness and all the context behind the story, I need to go back to the very beginning. Let's go back to before I ever moved in. I was living in an apartment with just me and my 2 kids. The reason I was even looking for a house to move into was because a neighbor of mine came to me and brought it to my attention that I had a peeping Tom looking in my back window every single night. Ended up being like a stalker situation where they tried to gain access to my home on several different occasions. I filed a police report and started looking for a new house. Keep in mind that I had a stalker. Important later on in the story. We're looking for a house for like a year. Houses are hard to come by in Appalachia. In my area, all the houses are already lived in, and when one comes available, it's rented within 5 minutes. I heard there was an old historical house for rent for only $600 a month. It's a pretty well-known house in our town. Like, pretty much everybody knows what house this is. This house is huge, and it's beautiful, and it's creepy and eerie and all the things. $600 was only $40 more a month than I was paying for my apartment. And like I said, this house was huge. It just fell in my lap. It seemed like it was meant to be, and it was a steal. So I was like, of course, I'm going to call these people and check it out. It's one of the biggest homes in my small town and probably one of the oldest that's still lived in. Like I said, everyone in my town knows this house. It sits up on this big hill across from this huge graveyard, and there's another graveyard to the left of it. And then there's just woods surrounding the backyard. It's on like the outskirts of town, but it still had a rural feel to it. The Kentucky River was right down behind it through the woods. I called the landlord. They said that the house needed some work. They said if I was willing to look past that and if I wanted to do some of the work myself, they would knock it off the rent every month. There were several red flags right off the bat that I should not have ignored, but I was desperate and determined to make it work. When I first walked in, I could tell that it needed some cleaning and a fresh coat of paint on the walls. The first 3 rooms I saw were painted like this pretty yellow color, and the rest of the rooms downstairs were all painted different colors, but some of them were only like halfway painted, like somebody had started painting them and then stopped halfway through. The walls were like 2 different colors in some rooms, blue and white. They told me they were okay with me painting it, but they just didn't want me to paint it black or anything. And I thought that was kind of weird, but I didn't really know what they meant by that until we made our way upstairs. I asked how many bedrooms it was, and they told me that there were 3 bedrooms downstairs if you used the dining room as a bedroom, which some of the tenants had done before. And he went on to say that there were 3 more bedrooms upstairs, but most people usually just kept the upstairs closed off. I figured, what's the use in only using half of the house, and I wanted to have a dining room. I asked if we could go upstairs and take a look around. So we go upstairs, and the upstairs is made like a circle house, you know, like it's all intertwined and connected. First red flag, houses with that type of layout are like known for having a lot of spiritual activity trapped inside. I didn't know that at the time though. So like I said, there were 3 bedrooms upstairs, and they each had their own huge closets, and there was a big master bathroom. Second red flag, when we get to the middle bedroom upstairs, I finally realized why he had asked me not to paint anything black. This entire room was painted solid black, and it looked like it had been like spray painted or something. The walls, the doors, the trim, everything was just pitch black, the darkest black color I've ever seen. I'm not gonna lie, it gave off like the creepiest vibes. The first thing I ever did was paint that room. I don't know why I didn't take any pictures of it beforehand. I felt like almost like embarrassed about that room in a way. I don't know. Anyways, so that's the first thing I did. I painted that room. I wish I had it before to show y'all because it was so creepy. The landlord kind of laughed and said he wasn't sure what had happened in there. And I was like, oh, okay. We make our way back downstairs to the sunroom, which was like my favorite part of the house, honestly. Come to find out that is most likely where they stored the bodies when it was a funeral home. Anyways, it was beautiful. It was lined with windows. The walls were kind of destroyed and needed a lot of TLC. I was willing to put in the work. I seen the potential. I was so excited. There was this beautiful grand piano in there, and I was like, hey, can I have the piano? Does it come with the house? And he was like, yeah, as long as you take it with you when you leave. I was like, okay, this is like all too good to be true. What the heck? What could go wrong? Third red flag. The husband asks me, are you scared of ghosts? And I thought to myself, what a strange question. But he was smiling and laughing, so I laughed and I said, no, why? Side note, I have always been absolutely terrified of paranormal things. I've experienced things my entire life, but like I said, I was determined and desperate. He laughed and said, well, good, because everybody that moves in here moves out because they say that it's haunted. He said he couldn't keep a tenant because of it and for other reasons, like people not paying their rent and just moving out. Like I said, he was laughing and he said that he didn't believe in that kind of stuff and he'd been there 100 times by himself and nothing had ever happened to him. He went on to tell me that the cabinets in the kitchen had been nailed shut by a previous tenant because they would slam all the time by themselves, especially at night. I decided to look past all of this and still agree to moving in. It really needed to be cleaned and it needed some work done to it, mostly just painting. So the first month or two after I had signed the lease, I would go there by myself almost every single day and either clean the place or paint it or just try to fix it up in some way. I feel kind of like out of breath even talking about it, but I always felt like there was somebody behind me or like I was just always being watched, like, you know, the sense or the feeling that something's staring at you. Tried to ignore it, but it was overwhelming at times, to say the least. As soon as people started hearing that I was moving in there, they was telling me stories because, like I said, a lot of people have lived here in the past. I had 7 or 8 different people tell me that they had experienced or knew somebody that experienced something creepy in this house and that it was 100% haunted. And then I started hearing all the backstories behind it. People were telling me it used to be allegedly a Civil War hospital. I didn't find out until later that it used to be a funeral home. We'll get there eventually. I'm trying to keep the story in like the order that things happened. Nothing too weird happened before I actually moved in, other than like the sense of feeling like I was never alone and like I was being stared at and things like that. There's a basement. Of course there was a basement, and there was an attic space. I never went in either. Too scared to go like check out the basement, and so my dad went down there for me, and he said that there was a 10-foot snakeskin coming up the stairs. I have a video of that somewhere. I will try to find it. Basement was dirt floor, and there were like holes to the outside, you know, so I guess it could freely come in and out as it wanted to, and other things as well. It was full of like cave crickets, and it was just like a really cold, dark, scary place. I found the lease in like October, and I worked on it for a few months, so I think we moved in like the day before Christmas or something like that. Maybe a few days before Christmas. I'm not really sure. I can't remember. It didn't take long before like the paranormal creepy things started happening. The first like weird creepy thing that happened was probably about a month after we started staying there. My boyfriend would spend the night sometimes, but he had his own house, but he did have a key to my place. This particular night we were arguing. Like I don't even know what we were fighting about, but I do know that like we were mad about something. So I wasn't texting him back, and I thought for sure that he was just going to stay home that night. About 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning probably. Didn't check my phone to see what time it was. I was in bed asleep, and I am a really light sleeper. Woke up to the sound of my back door opening, and so I hear the back door open, and automatically I'm like alert, and I'm like, okay, somebody's here. So I hear footsteps, I hear keys get thrown onto the table, which is normally what my boyfriend would do when he came in. So I heard him, what I believed to be my boyfriend, throw his keys on the table and then come into the living room and lay down on the couch, what I thought, and go to sleep. Like I said, I was mad at him, so I was like, I'm not even gonna acknowledge that he's here. I'm just gonna go back to sleep and deal with it in the morning. Except in the morning, when I wake up and go look on the couch, nobody's there. So I text my boyfriend and I'm like, hey, were you here last night? And he was like, no, why? And I was like, oh, that's weird, because somebody was here. Somebody definitely came inside, and I heard keys and somebody walk into the living room. And remember, I had a stalker, so my first thought was not paranormal. My first thought was my stalker. So I went to investigate more, and I found the basement door open. I think I forgot to mention, this was the first night that I had spent in the house with just me. Like, my kids weren't there. They were spending the night with my mom this night. Close the basement door, and I leave, and I call somebody to come check out the basement and make sure nobody's down there, and there was nobody there, and I still was just feeling unsafe. This house had 6 entryways and 100 windows that were not very secure. Nobody was there. Nothing was there. And that was only the beginning of all the rest of the creepy paranormal shit that we were about to experience.
My girlfriends and I probably had one of the most scariest weekends of our lives when we took a girls' trip in the Appalachian Mountains. And before you come at me, I need you to know that I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains, born and raised Eastern Kentucky. I'm going to try to make this as short as I can, but I have to give you the story in the chunks and the details that it happened because none of it makes sense. We frequent Boone in the mountains. It's an easy drive for us, and we just love staying there. We love going to the wineries. The area is just beautiful. We go to the fall to watch the leaves. You can go in the winter and just catch a cozy vibe, or you can go in the summer and beat the heat from the city. The way I have to explain this story to you is that this happened in phases. So I would say phase 1 is the first night that we're together. Phase 2 is the actual occurrence. And then phase 3 is like the follow-up and a weird story. So we stayed in Linville Falls, and if you're familiar with the area, it's a super small town, and you can go to like a crossroads essentially. And there's an old store. There's a bunch of old houses built into the mountains, and there is caverns, I think, that you can go and tour. So it's me and 2 of my other girlfriends. My 2 girlfriends are coming from the city. I'm coming from somewhere else. They're driving together and I drive separate. So I arrive there first. And when I walk in, the place is immaculately clean. It's beautiful and it's old. It's rustic. They've kept that old charm. The stove is old. All the kitchen appliances are old. They've kept a lot of the stone features throughout the house. There's a wood burning fireplace. There's a record player. And so of course I have to go play around with the record player. So anyways, I'm there by myself. I've already made my rounds, and the owners of the house have actually set out a bottle of bourbon for us. It is super cozy, and we're getting ready to start the night. The girls have arrived. And throughout this entire cabin, there's relics from the past. It's very old and rustic and mountain Philly. And there's a guitar. There's a corner with some old guitars and some old instruments, a record player, yada, yada, yada. And my girlfriend picks up the guitar and she just starts being silly and strumming But anyways, I filmed the video of my girlfriend playing on the guitar and I sent it to my mom. And my mom says, what is that light that just came out of the guitar and flew into my other girlfriend? So we laugh it off because when you go back and watch the video, there's a light that leaves the guitar and then it goes like into my girlfriend. I'm filming. And we laugh it off because we're a couple of drinks in at this point. So anyways, this is phase one. This is the night before everything happens. We're doing our thing. We're going outside. We are inebriated. And I tell you this not to condone it. I tell you this because like Satan himself could have walked into the room and I would have made him a cocktail. Maybe I didn't notice what was going on. Maybe we just didn't notice. But I also think that it made our vibrations and energy a little lower and again, fed into this whole fiasco that I'm going to go into. Long story short, that night we all crashed together in the living room. There's a couch, there's a love seat, there's a recliner. We all have our own spaces and we crash. So I wake up in the middle of the night and we always have music playing. We always bring a speaker with us. That's our vibe. But I wake up in the middle of the night and I notice like this loud music is playing and it's creepy. But the sheer volume of it, there's no way we had our music up that loud. And how did we sleep through it? I also have an eclectic music taste. And you know, when you turn your music on, sometimes it shuffles and you're like, I have no idea how this got here. But I genuinely have no idea how this song got on anywhere on my playlist. But I wake up my other girlfriend and she was like, what is playing? It is like very low vibration, but it's techie, disco-y, and a little rock. But the energy is off and we're just like, that's weird. Anyways, we all slept in the living room that night, which is going to bring me to night 2. Okay, so the next morning we get up. We have plans. We're going to go to a winery. It's going to be a low-key day. I get up and I make coffee. I'm doing my morning routine and I notice something right then and there. There are rosaries all over this house. Every doorway, every archway, it is an entrance and an exit into a room, if it's a doorway, there's a rosary. And I think I have some pictures and I'm going to look, but if I don't have them, I'm sorry. No idea how we missed that, but I pointed out to my girlfriends and we're like, that is weird, but we also are in the South, so maybe they're religious. It's somebody else's home. Whatever, it is what it is. But then we got to thinking that maybe we should start poking around and looking at the guest books and looking at the things that they have sitting around the home. Not that we didn't poke around before, but we see the guest book, so we open it up and my girlfriend starts reading it out loud and we start noticing something. This house is old and there's a lot of older views. They go back to the 90s, which would make sense. We're also in a ski resort town, so people would have came and stayed for skiing. But the message is the same constantly. This place feels like home. It's so warm and inviting. I feel like I've been here before. Everybody's saying the same exact thing about this house. In fact, what we think is even more weird is that people are leaving Polaroid pictures of their families in this book. Again, it's a ski trip, whatever. It's their kids. They're like going down the mountains. It's snowy. But there are a lot of pictures of families. And they all think it feels like home. Anyways, we laugh it off and we're like, this house is trying to keep us. Like it's trying to keep us like the movies where you go a place and you just truly never can get out of it. We go to the winery. We have a good day. Nothing of significance happens. But phase 2 is coming next. Now, again, when I start talking about phase 2, I want you to know that I'm telling you from my perspective. So the girlfriends and I, we decided we're not going to sleep in the living room. We have to drive back home tomorrow. There are 3 bedrooms. We're going to sleep in a bed and get a good night's rest. It's an old mountain home and it's got 1 bathroom. That's really common with old homes. So there's a long hallway. There's 2 bedrooms on one side, 1 bedroom on the other, and the bathroom is at the very end of the hallway. I go to the bathroom, get ready for bed, don't think anything of it, and go to sleep. There's also a storm coming, so everything that I hear, I'm chalking it up to the wind, to this noise, to the storm. Also, there is a back porch that goes and kind of backs up to the room I'm staying at, and if you walked down this back porch, there's a window, and that window would be into my bedroom that I'm in. And I just hear what sounds like somebody running or pacing back and forth on this porch. And I'm like, it has to be the storm. I'm not going to go out here and wake up my friends. Like, this wind is crazy. And then we start hearing knocking at the door. Well, I start hearing knocking at the door. And I'm like, again, maybe there's something on this back porch that is blowing. The wind is blowing it against the door. I'm trying to tell myself that this is silly. Why am I being scared? I'm an adult. Then the door handle starts jiggling. And I hear, like, when you have the door locked and you hear a jiggle. So, again, how is the wind doing this? But at this same time, I hear somebody get up and walk down the hallway and go into the bathroom. I see the lights turn on. I hear the water running. Somebody's in the bathroom. And I'm like, wow, this storm is so strong. Like it's woken one of my girlfriends up. I hear somebody walk back down the hallway, get in a room, and I keep hearing people walking down the hallway. And I'm like, who's going to the bathroom? But again, we're adults, and I'm like, I don't want to bother anybody. But like, I keep hearing somebody walking to the bathroom. I hear the door open. It's old. I hear the creaks. I hear the sink turn on. I hear the toilets flush. Like, I hear someone's in the bathroom. Anyways, I barely got any sleep that night, and I tried to pretend like it was just this wind and this storm, but I was completely creeped out. So phase 3 starts. It's the next morning, and I wake up and I see my girlfriend sitting on the couch, and I'm like, what are you doing, girl? And she was like, I could not sleep. I kept hearing something like it was pacing the porch, and like I kept on hearing the door handle jiggle. I kept on hearing like somebody was knocking on the door, and it was freaking me out. And I was like, me too. I said, and who kept going to the bathroom? Did you go to the bathroom like 3 times? And she was like, no, I thought it was you or my other friend. And I'm like, well, it wasn't me. I said, but I kept hearing somebody going to the bathroom. I was like, girl, it wasn't me. Must have been my other friend. And we were laughing, but we like realized we had the same experience. We were just in 2 different rooms. So then my other girlfriend comes and she's waking up and she's coming to the living room to talk to us. And we were like, why did you go to the bathroom so many times? And she's like, I never went to the bathroom once. I thought it was you guys. She also confirmed that she heard all the noises and like the door handle jiggling, etc., etc. So we just realized in that very moment that all 3 of us were in different rooms and had the same experience all night. We heard the same things, we thought the same things, and none of it was true. So we're freaked out, but it's checkout time. We're laughing it off. I go to make coffee and we're talking about it, and I turn around and I say, it's so funny that all 3 of us had the same experience in different rooms. And as soon as I say that, the electricity to the entire place cut off. Needless to say, we have never packed an Airbnb and got out as fast as we did, but to this day, people don't believe us. People don't believe the story. It's one of the weirdest things that I've ever had happen to me in my life.
If you ever felt the chill of something watching you, you're not alone. Don't forget to subscribe and share your own encounter in the comments below. As always, stay safe, stay aware, and question everything.